going on, Jerome's? Your Minnesota Vikings are looking to get to 8-6 on the season and really solidify their holdings in the NFC in terms of playoff places, as well as go after the low-energy Detroit Lions. So Saturday at noon, standalone game in Cincinnati. The Queen City of the Vikings will look to take on Ja'Marr Chase and Jumpin' Jake Browning and the Bengals. So here are 10 keys for a Vikings victory. Numero uno, Mullens manages the mania. Now, Nick Mullens, he comes into an interesting spot. Now, Josh Dobbs was the passionate for a hot second, but the offense, especially the passing game, has really struggled over the last couple of weeks. Now, that hasn't necessarily all been on Dobbs for sure. The receivers maybe run a little bit better routes, maybe not having drops, Kevin O'Connell calling a better game, all that offensive line doing a little bit better, all that adds up. But Nick Mullens, you saw how he operated against the Raiders, 9-13, managed the game, got the ball out quick through a catchable ball, and just was good. Was very, very good. Now, all he has to do is take what the Bengals defense gives him on time, operate the offense, distribute the ball. He doesn't have to do anything crazy. Like, again, all he has to do is Brock Purdy this mother, and you'll be good to go. Right? And Mullens, he's a veteran. He's been in this offense for 2 years. Kevin O'Connell knows him, and he's much more akin to Kirk Cousins in terms of being a pure pocket passer who can distribute an accurate football, and I think that the Vikings can do some good things with Nick Mullens. And also, people make a big deal. It's like, oh, this is the Vikings' fourth quarterback. Mullens was always QB2. He was QB2 last year after the trade ahead of Mannion and Kellen Mond. He was QB2 out of training camp, and if he wasn't on IR with his back injury, as I burp, the Vikings probably don't trade for Dobbs. And Jaron Hall doesn't get his start against the Falcons. So, again, Mullens was 2. He's always was 2, and he's going to be 2. Next up, number 2, JJ outduels Ja'Marr Chase. Now, all of the hype surrounding this matchup, Ja'Marr Chase and JJ, teammates at LSU, Ja'Marr saying that he's the best. But JJ is not really a talker. He's not really a chest thumper like Ja'Marr is a little bit. And JJ, he's got the numbers. He lets his play do the talking, and you know that he's got to be a little bit pissed off they got knocked out against the Raiders so quickly. So he's going to come in, chip on his shoulder. Nick Mullens can get him the football. He's not going to hang him out to dry like Josh Dobbs did with a couple of those hospital balls. And I think JJ could put on a show, especially with that Bengals defense a little bit banged up. And I do think the Vikings will put up some crooked numbers on a Saturday. Next up, number 3, Hawkinson has a career day. And speaking of the Bengals defense in shambles, so the Bengals defense is 32nd in the league in terms of tight end fantasy scoring at 16.6 points per game in PPR, which is good for us. It's fantastic. And Mullens, when he got his run in 2018 and 2020, his number 1 targeted player was George Kittle. So he loves him some tight ends. He loves him some Iowa tight ends. Corn-fed, baby. That's right. So I think Hawkinson, especially operating in the middle of this defense, the Bengals have, they lost Bates in free agency, and also they're dealing with a number of injuries up the middle. I think that Hawkinson could certainly have his way against what Cincinnati is bringing to the table. So I love it. I kind of love it. And, Hawkinson has been great, and he's been carrying me to the fantasy playoffs. I think he has a big-time game. I'm talking about 10 catches, a $150 and 1, maybe 2. Who knows, man. Next up, number 4, free Ty Chandler. So sort of flying under the radar with all the Mullens and Dobbs stuff is that Ty Chandler is going to be your RB1 in the game against the Bengals because Alexander Mattison, unfortunately, has what's reported as a high ankle sprain, and Ty Chandler is going to be getting the bulk of the work. Kinkene and Wangu will be sprinkled in there a little bit as well, but basically that's what it's going to be. And maybe they'll bring up Gaskin or Dwayne McBride from the practice squad, but Ty Chandler is going to get the bulk of the work as a running back. And also with Mullens, Mullens isn't afraid to just check it down. I think that Ty Chandler could really get things going in the dump-off game, in the screen game, in everything, and going from there. Next up, number 5, keep the chains moving. And I understand that sounds like duh, but that's something the Vikings have struggled a little bit lately. But the Bengals are 31st in the NFL on third down at 42.7%, which is kind of odd because Lou Anarumo is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, and they do have a ton of talent there. They've dealt with injuries, but I don't know. Like the Vikings, I feel like the last couple of games they've relied too much on the Flores defense, right? So 1 touchdown allowed in the last 3 games, which is fantastic. But take a little bit of pressure off. Don't always have them on the field. Don't have them in bad position. Keep them fresh late in the game and late into the season. And I think that keeping ahead of the chains and getting some positive plays, eliminating the stupid-ass screen passes where you either lose 2 yards or get no gain, all that stuff. But just getting positive plays on first down, getting into second and third and manageables, I think is going to be the name of the game. Because, I mean, if you're constantly in third and forevers, I mean, Nick Mullens, I mean, he's a fine veteran backup, except he's not the guy who you really want slinging it back there on 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, etc. Next up, number 6. O-line needs to bounce back, right? So Nick Mullens, he does not have the mobility of a Josh Dobbs, that's for sure, but also Mullens has a little bit better pocket awareness, and that's something that's going to be very important for the O-line. And even though, yes, they've dealt with a number of injuries, and Brian O'Neill is going to be out, I do think that they can get a good game going. Quisenberry is a very nice veteran backup tackle. He'll fill in nicely at right tackle, but, I mean, the offensive line, it's gonna be a big day. So B.J. Hill, DJ Reader certainly can get after it. Trey Hendrickson is one of the more underrated edge rushers in the game. Slinging Sam Hubbard on that left side is going to do some work as well. So it's going to be a big-time matchup. And the Hendrickson versus Darrisaw, I mean, Hendrickson nearly exclusively rushes from the right side. That's going to be a big-time matchup, man. Next up, key number 7. Flores keeps doing Flores things. That's right. And the Bengals offense, so, yes, they're down jumping Joe Burrow, except they got talent all over the place, man. With Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd is adept in the slot. Then you got guys like Drew Sample. Irv is still in there. It's kind of fun, man. Joe Mixon, Chase Brown had himself a huge game last week against the Jaguars. But the Bengals, the Bengals, in terms of running the ball, are 26th in the league at 3.9 yards per carry. Jake Browning can obviously get got. We'll get to him in a second. And this offensive line, is a bit of a sieve as well. They've allowed 23 sacks and have 163 pressures. And Orlando Brown Jr. got that big-time contract. Ain't scared him. Jonah Williams at right tackle. Nah. Kappa Karras of Olsen. Nah. No. I think the Vikings will be able to get some heat on Jake Browning and potentially have him serve up a meatball or 6. Next up, key number 8. Speaking of Jake Browning, make Jake Browning throw deep. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, he hit Jamar Chase on a long touchdown last week, but Jake Browning's ADOT, average depth of target, is 5.6 yards down the field, which is beep, bop, 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 boop, 42nd out of 42 qualifying quarterbacks. And basically, yeah, I give a lot of props to Zach Taylor because Jake Browning does not really have a top-tier arm. He doesn't really have top-tier deep down the field accuracy, and he did struggle through some shoulder issues coming out of Washington. It's one of the reasons why he went undrafted. And I do like Jake Browning because he's a cerebral player. He's tough. He delivers a good, accurate ball underneath. But if you take everything away underneath and make him throw deep, it's going to be a little bit dicey, and I think that's exactly what Flores is going to do. He's going to make Jake Browning play left-handed, and again, he doesn't have the arm strength to do anything more than basically what Brock Purdy's doing. And the Vikings are very good at sniffing out screens. I think that you'll see a ton of them with the Bengals and trying to get Higgins and Boyd and Chase going. And if you just sit underneath, sit in the hook zones and the flats, I think that it's going to be a really tough day for Jake Browning in the passing game because basically you're going to be daring Jake Browning to take a couple shots deep, and could be yum time when you got Cam Beasley, Harrison Smith hanging back there just chilling, waiting for a couple of meatballs back there. Next up, number 9, Caleb Evans versus Jamar Chase. Now, it's going to be a big-time matchup outside because the Bengals do have size on the outside with Higgins and Jamar Chase, and Caleb Evans being back in the lineup is fantastic. Could have used them against the Bengals and Cortland Sutton. But also, I think Mekhi Blackman's going to get a ton of run on the outside as well. I think that Murph is generally going to be sitting in the slot with Boyd. But it's going to be tough out there. It's going to be a grass basketball game on the outside, and Evans being physical with Chase and Higgins, trying to get them off their game. And like we said, if the Vikings and the game plan for Flores is to take away everything underneath, Browning's going to probably have to take a couple of shots. And hey, can Caleb Evans come down with his first career interception? Ooh, love to see that, man. Lastly, number 10. So Generally, it's been, hey, make one big special teams play, but also win the turnover battle. That's pretty good, too. That's pretty damn good one. So the Bengals, interestingly enough, the Bengals offense has the fewest turnovers in the league with 11. They're numero uno. The defense is 7th in the league with 21 takeaways, but the Vikings got to take the rock away from Browning, and also they can't give it away. And I think that's priority number one with Mullens. That's mainly the reason why Dobbs sat, where, the Vikings didn't have any turnovers per se against the Raiders, but 8 turnovers in 4 games. It's not good. It's not good, man. So Mullens takes care of the football. People hang on to the rock. People don't drop passes. People don't drop balls and all that stuff. And, Metellus and company, Pace Jr. and company, Daniil and company, get a couple of strip sacks, go Peanut Tillman, punch that ball out, and go from there. Final score prediction. I think it's going to be a close game because the Vikings only play close games. But I think that you're going to get efficient quarterback play from Mullens, which is all you need at this point. I think JJ is going to have himself a really nice game. I think Addison could actually wake himself up too. I think Hawkinson is going to get some things done in the middle. Ty Chandler is going to have himself a really nice game, 100-plus yards from scrimmage total. And that Flores defense gets after it. I think that they put Jake Browning on the turf 3, 4, 5 times. I think maybe Daniil has himself a bust-out game, 2.5, 3 sacks in there. I think that they get a turnover or 2. I think the Vikings do end up winning rather convincingly. Well, rather convincingly for the Vikings. Give me Vikings 26, Bengals 16, moving to 8-6 on the season, and getting ready for the Lions, the Packers, and the Lions. Oh, my. That's right, man. That's right. But that's it. That's it. Your thoughts are our thoughts. What are your predictions? What's your final score prediction? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. It's Friday, man. But until next time, Skol, production value.